73 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nanny, bringing you another edition of Broad Street Hustle. We are covering the Phillies again, and we'll get into the Eagles and the NFL and go through some of our picks from last week and make new picks. This is Broad Street Hustle, your not just a podcast, but your playbook for success. Let's go around the horn. We have the crew back. I think we've had the same crew now to start the NFL season, all 3 weeks right now. So we got Jason Sayeda.
What's up, Tom?
What is up? We got Jimmy Chalk.
Hello, hello.
Hello. And we got Christopher Michael Meeker.
What's up, gentlemen?
What's up, right? This is the same crew now for all 3 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's how we like it. So let's jump right into it. We got Philly. So last time we were on was last Wednesday, I guess. Because the Eagles played last Wednesday, so I don't remember that game. But let's just say it was not counting Wednesday. The Phillies are 4-2 in that stretch. I want to say they remained flat in the wild card. I think they were 4 up back then. I'm not sure. We're pretty close, but they're up 4 now for that first spot. What are we thinking, Jason? We just came off the Brave series. Do we feel confident the Phillies are going to lock up the 1 seed? Well, the 1 playoff seed, the wild card seed, I should say. And does that Brave series tell you anything about playoffs, or was that just the Braves really, have it locked up, and how much are they really playing?
Yeah, I yesterday to me was the game of the year. I mean, I thought it was, an exciting game. I thought a lot of good things happened on the Phillies end, starting with Nola. Nola looked very good yesterday. If that's the Nola we're going to get in Game 2 of the wild card series and Game 2 of the next series, I'm fine with it. He looked good. And then, Castellanos had a big game, obviously. He was the player of the game. That last play he made, probably didn't make the right decision, but he made a great play on it. But as far as locking up the first wild card, they're up 2.5 games on Arizona as we speak. I think they're pretty solid. They have the Mets and the Pirates for the rest of the year. They should go 7-3 at minimum, I would think, in those games. Arizona, I believe, has the Dodgers, so that could be tough for them. So Arizona's not catching them. My issue is I'm a little concerned with playing Arizona in that first round. You're going to get Gallen and you're going to get Merrill Kelly in games 1 and 2. That's not going to be easy. So I would rather see the Cubs catch them, to be honest with you, catch Arizona. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'd prefer not to play Arizona. I don't know about you guys.
Jimmy Chalk, thoughts?
Yeah, I would probably prefer the Cubs. You would get Steele, right, with the Cubs. Yep. But, I mean, after that, that's, Stroman is not going to be starting if he's available at all in the playoffs. I think he's bullpen. Now, I'm assuming, Jason, you looked at how the Diamondbacks rotation would line up, but, I mean, they're not slam dunk in yet. So, I don't know if they would have to shift Gallen up a game or 2 at the end of the year to even get into the playoffs. So, that means you kind of be rooting for Miami both Miami and Chicago, and the Reds. Well, Reds have 2 more losses, but so they're all there. So really, I think if you're a Phillies fan, you want a close race to the end for those last 2 spots, because then the other teams are going to shift their rotations around maybe to even, get in. But as far as, the Phillies performance, they took 4 out of 6, including 2 out of 3 from the Braves. Yesterday was kind of the reverse of what happened with the games of the Vet, where the Phillies jumped out early. Atlanta came back, got to the bullpen. Hoffman gave up some runs for the first time in a while. And the Phillies pulled it out in extra innings instead of, kind of like the Braves did here. To me, you can say, oh, well, the Braves clinched the home field last week here, and so maybe they're less focused. But they lost 5 out of 6, and they got absolutely taken to the woodshed by the Marlins.
Yeah,
so
but then Acuna not playing like 4 of those games, 3 of those
no,
games?
he's been playing every night.
I'm pretty sure he sat out.
He played. He played.
I don't think so. Double check that.
Yeah, I'll check right now for you. But they still have to play for home field because the Dodgers are within striking distance. So September as a month overall has not been great for Atlanta. I mean, this last stretch has kind of put them underneath 500, but it's been, winning percentage, their worst month of the season so far. And I think you're playing with fire if you think you can just turn it on and turn it off, even though that team is really, really good. I don't think the Phillies are a better team, but I think the Phillies can hang with Atlanta. And I'm going to be convinced that there's nobody in the NL that scares me as far as the Phillies can't hang. Now, if they stop hitting, they could get swept easily. But even Castellanos had been slowing down. He had a really great series, like Jason mentioned, against the Braves. And JT got off the schneid a little bit down in Atlanta, but he's still a concern, I think. But look, Wheeler's in good form, and you're going to have to hope to get one or two other decent starts out of the rest of the rotation and put up 6 runs. It's not textbook how you would like to do it, but that's what they need to do.
How about you? And Acuna didn't play in 2 of the Marlins games. Meeker, thoughts?
Well, it looks like they decided on what they want to do with Michael Lorenzen, and that didn't look so good the other night.
I hope the decision is to send them away and not put him on a roster spot, a playoff spot. But.
See, I think he's important. I think they got to straighten him out somehow because he's a good arm. If you could, at least
you need him.
You need him. And that back of that bullpen is not strong, so they better straighten him out. But go ahead, Mika. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. And that's the only thing, not the only thing, but it's the one thing that we all want to see happen over the next however many days, 10 days before the playoffs start, is just to get this bullpen in some sort of shape. So you know who you're going to in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. I think, at this point, I think they're going to make their decision to pitch Ranger in the 3rd game if they need him. Unless they want to save Nola for the 3rd game and pitch him in game 2. I don't know if that's what the strategy might be, but one of the things that you had mentioned about playing, who would you rather play? So the last weekend of the season, the Diamondbacks have to play the Astros. And that whole situation in the American League may come down to the last weekend of the season. So it's not like the Astros are coasting into the playoffs and, they're not going to play their starters or, pitch any of their good starters in the last weekend of the season. So, the other teams, like I'm looking at the schedule now, the Cubs play the Brewers. The Brewers will clinch by then. Right. So I don't know that would be an important series for Milwaukee, and the Marlins get the Pirates and the Reds, if they're still in it. Oh, Chalky just led the coop there.
Not good.
Technical difficulty. And the Reds play the Cardinals last weekend of the season. But I agree with you. I mean, I think the toughest matchup for the Phils would be Arizona. That's the team I don't really want to see at this point, because if you throw Gallen and Kelly in 1 and 2, you got to match that up with.
Even if it's 2 and 3 or 1 and 3, it doesn't necessarily have to be 1 and 2. You're getting probably 2 of them.
Exactly, and that in a short series, that's kind of a scary thing.
Yeah, I mean, you lose the advantage of having Wheeler, right? As the
Gallen
on
the gate him.
I mean, so now the parts that we talked about, where their 2nd and 3rd starters, become more important, and now we're relying on our 2nd and 3rd starters.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
But it's the thought of that going through of that series going 3 games, and you're just basically throwing everybody out there at that point. You have to have a short hook on Suarez, and if he's pitching good, you let him maybe get into the 5th or 6th. But the bullpen's still scary. I'm not feeling great about it, and that's you guys know. I mean, in the playoffs, bullpens are so important in today's baseball. Maybe not in yesteryear's baseball, because guys used to get into the 7th and 8th inning pretty consistently. But in today's baseball, the bullpens are really what matters, and who's going to win look at the win losses. Most of the starters, they're at 9, 10, 11 wins. Most of your wins and losses come late in games, and that bullpen's got to perform.
Let me throw a question out to you guys. Who would you consider your back end of the bullpen right now? And I would say, give me 4 guys. Give me your 4 back end guys. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think you still got to go with Alvarado, Hoffman, Kimbrel, right? And
yep. There's one guy that
Soto?
you haven't mentioned yet today.
Strom. It's got to be
Strom.
Strom.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
Strom,
think
yeah.
Strom needs to be in the
Yep.
back end of your bullpen.
I think you might need
He
him.
was. Didn't he pitch the 8th inning? One game this week.
He's been lately. He's been. I think he closed out.
Or he might even
Did
close.
he close out yesterday?
He might have closed. He closed yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yesterday being extra innings though was a little.
It's
but
different,
I think even
right?
before a game before that, he was late, 8th inning, I think.
Yeah, I want him in there. I want him as a guy that you're going to see in the 7th or 8th inning.
I think it's got to be extremely situational, with that situation. With both of these guys that you're talking about are left-handed, Alvarado and Strom. So, you might have to go to the computer and see, depending on who's coming up at certain times in the game and who Strom is, whose stats Alvarado or Strom are better than, and just piece it together that way. I wouldn't say, I want Alvarado in the 8th and I want Strom in the 7th. I would have to look at all that stuff.
Yeah, it could be too. Like I know Alvarado has some control issues, but he's more of a strikeout guy. So if you got bases loaded, 1 out, you want to strike out, not contact.
Yeah.
You might go to a guy like an Alvarado, right, as opposed to a Strom. So
I'll tell you,
situational could definitely play.
Guys I don't want are Dominguez and Soto.
No,
I don't. You can't. You just can't.
Yeah, Dominguez, I think he's just burnt too many times. I just don't think he's going to get.
I don't trust him.
And that was last year. He struggled but then he got it together, right, going into the playoffs, and that was part of the run. Was you had a strong Dominguez, you had a strong Alvarado. Going into the playoffs with those guys where a lot of even Kimbrel. I mean, I don't know how much you trust Kimbrel.
I think it's a big difference between this year and last year. Like you said, the bullpen was rock solid last year going into the playoffs.
Yeah. And that's why it was actually a little surprising when in the World Series when Alvarado had some trouble and the game. Because you thought that you felt good with those guys coming in. But, I mean, it was, they're probably running out of gas. But still, that was just goes to show you how well they were doing.
So, real quick, Strom closed out yesterday, the extra innings. He pitched the 8th inning in the Monday win, 7-1. And he got the win last Friday when Nola couldn't go 5. So, he came in the 5th in that. But those are his last 3 outings. And Acuna did miss the first 2 Marlins games, but the Marlins scored 16 and 11 runs respectively. So his absence probably didn't make the difference there.
I just said Acuna didn't play.
Yes, that is correct.
But even so,
played 4 out of the 6.
So Strom pitched in the 5th inning.
Yeah, but they needed. They were doing a long, a stretch.
Right. Yeah, and then he pitched in a 7-1 game, so it's not a high stress situation.
Are they?
And then he
Do
pitched.
you think they're saving him a little? Because he's a guy with career innings already.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it doesn't seem like he's got him in that late inning situation because, like you said, yesterday's extra innings. That's just you ran out of guys and you.
No, but what I'm saying is is he setting it up for? This is going to be a guy lean on in the playoffs, so I'm using him in less stressful situations. I mean, because it seems like they feel like a lot of what they're doing is setting up for the playoffs, right? Already, they moved Lorenz in to see what to get him ready for the playoffs. So maybe they're purposely not putting him in high stress position.
I would think that they would want to. I don't think they would want to throw his feet into the fire. I would think they would want to get him ready for a high stress situation,
or they're just trying to save the arm. That's why I don't know. I mean,
so just looking real quickly with Strom, about half of his last 12, 13, 14, let's say 14, 7 were high pressure leverage. So he either got a hold or a save or a blown save, and the others were not in those late inning situations. So it's kind of mixed. It's not really a pattern, but some of these also, I believe, were short starts on the part of the starting pitchers where they couldn't get 5, so he might have came in earlier there.
Yeah, look, it's going to come down to managing the staff in these playoff games. It's not really about, okay, he's my 7th inning guy, he's my 8th inning guy, he's my 9th inning guy. You have to play the matchups in these games. And, the analytics are going to be important, so going into whoever they play, they're going to have to figure out what to do in certain situations. And it won't always be these guys are going to pitch certain innings. The playoffs are high leverage unless you're blowing somebody out. It's always high leverage, so They all have to be ready.
Yeah, but there's a difference between coming in the bottom of the 8th versus coming in the bottom of the 6th.
Yeah, see, that hold stat, like, if you come in the 6th inning for a lead and you don't give up a run, is that a hold?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, to me, that's not high leverage, you know? I don't know.
That's a good question. A couple of the holds I'm seeing were late, like the
Listen,
home win against Atlanta and
7th, 8th inning, I can understand, but like 6th,
7th, 8th, and 9th are your late inning.
If you're at
high leverage late inning,
right?
I believe it has to be the 7th inning or later. But
Okay.
I'm looking here. I'm seeing 7th inning or later on the holds, but I can't quote the gospel on that.
Yeah, I have to look that up. I'm not sure that sounds right.
If you're in a close game in the 6th inning, and Nola's out of the game, Wheeler's out of the game, whatever, and whoever's coming up in their lineup is like the core of the lineup, it's still high leverage. I don't care if it's the 6th inning, 7th inning, 8th inning. Yeah, it's not late in the game, but if it's a tie game or if it's a close game,
yeah, but I think you're missing.
Get away with you.
Yeah, but
I think you're missing we're not saying like it's all important in the playoffs, but you're still going to lean on a certain guy. Some of you trust more in the 8th than some of you don't trust in the 6th.
Yeah,
like Soto might come in the 6th.
Right.
You're not going to bring him in the 8th.
Right.
Even in the
Soto comes into the 6th against 4 guys in your lineup.
Every relief pitcher you have is high leverage.
Right.
That's not what we're saying.
They can only use 3 relief pitchers in all of the playoffs.
Yeah, come on.
Like, there's got to be times where you're bringing a guy in you don't trust as much, and they're going to be in the 6th. I'm not going to bring Stroman in the 6th and go, I'm going to save my stinkier guy Soto to the 8th inning. No, you're going to bring him in the 6th to save your Strom for the 8th.
Right.
Yeah, well, I understand, but that's what I mean with depth. We don't have that depth, and that's the problem.
Different conversation. Yeah, that's different.
Well, that's where you need Lorenzen. Like, if you straighten Lorenzen out, now that's another arm that you could bring in the 7th, 8th inning. You know?
Yeah. And there's no reason why. I mean, goes back to it's. I don't think I believe it still, but I mean, it's hard to dispute the fact that since the man's thrown 124 pitches, he's been awful.
It's
to me,
to
look the other way.
It's clear cut. It's clear cut.
But it's almost to the point where he has like an injury at this point. He's had enough like time to recover and played bad for a while. Like, but
he might be on empty. Like if you pass your career high in innings, like your arm just doesn't recharge by getting an extra week. Like his arm just might be.
It was the perfect storm of career high in innings, a guy who's being converted from a reliever to a starter, who's now throwing 124 pitches. It's the perfect storm.
But it's like it's his location is bad.
It's the location.
It's not like it's a tired arm. It's like mechanics.
But it could be because his arm.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's going to go all your mechanics. It's tough to. All right, so
it's hard to refute.
The MLB rule book definition of a hold. Hold occurs when a relief pitcher enters the game in a save situation, so it's got to be after the 5th inning at least.
Right.
Maintains his team's lead for the next relief pitcher while recording at least 1 out. One of 2 conditions must be met to record a hold. He enters with a lead of 3 runs or less and maintains that lead while recording at least 1 out, or he enters the game with the tying run on deck at the plate or on the bases and records an out. Holds are designed to credit late relief pitchers who are not closers.
So that would mean 6th inning counts as a hold.
6 could, I guess, if it says save situation, so that would, I guess, include the 6th. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also talking as if we trust Rob Thompson to make the right decision with the.
Well, yeah, no, I mean,
yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, moving on to the NFL. By this time next week, we should know the Phillies season should be locked up. Give or take. But we might not know who they're playing as of yet by this time next week. But we shall see. All right, let's move to the NFL. Let's move to the Eagles game. Eagles, Minnesota. I believe we all had the Minnesota covering the spread, if I'm not mistaken.
No, one of us did not.
Meeker?
No, I had them covering.
Yeah,
somebody did not.
Chalky had them winning, so that's covering the spread.
Covering the spread.
No, then Meeker, you did not. Because you had like 30-21 or something like that, I believe.
No, 30-23.
Well, then you did not have them covering
the spread.
You did not
have, the line was.
So you had them covering the spread.
You had the.
What was it at game time?
It was like 5.
It was like 7.
It was.
5.
It was.
Less than 7.
It was 6 even in a lot of places.
Yeah, it was less than
Because
7.
it was a we had 6.5, so they covered, but 6 was a push in a lot of places because
Let me look.
I thought Meeker did have Minnesota covering,
I
but
thought so too.
I'm in the
I-
pool, so I'm assuming.
Oh, I thought I for some reason I thought one of us did not, and
I got the winner wrong, but I
Chalky had
think
the
we
winner.
all had him covering. Yeah,
I had.
Wait,
Um,
I would love to see these notes. I need to
Go
see
back to that.
these notes that he's referring to.
Yeah.
I need. Can you
somewhere
hold them up for us?
he's probably got a 90% win percentage in these notes.
probably. Hold on, I
Are
can pull
those
up.
notes? Are those notes you write them out on Mondays after the game?
Then he
I-
goes and texts his boys that he's got a 75% win percentage.
Yeah,
we'll
hold on.
get to
No,
that
no.
a little bit later.
All the boys know.
I am pulling up the
football.
transcript as we speak from last week, so
Go
I'll
back and look
I'll
at the tape, Chalky.
verify one.
I'm
way
gonna
or
have to
another,
start documenting these Eagle scores.
Well,
All I know is I had them winning by 6, and they won by 6.
That's
all.
correct. That's
Yeah,
correct.
when I had 31-27, not too far off of the
Yeah, I don't
actual game
remember.
as well. But yeah, so what, Jason? What do you think is it with the Eagles?
I mean, you know,
kind of
they
similar
stole-
to the New England game, right? Their offense didn't, besides them
Yeah,
effectively
they
running the ball.
Yeah,
once they
I'll
quit
start with the offense, and I keep telling you guys I watched that quarterback school, and I did watch it for Hurts, and I'm not even going to comment on Hurts. He missed a couple of guys that were open, and he checked down when he had guys wide open and stuff. But the one thing I noticed with that, and it's going to be a big play for me this week, is A.J. Brown. They just had him running clear routes like the whole game. It was unbelievable. Like he's just running straight down the field.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that was the thing. With, a lot of people are complaining about the offense coordinator, like the calling the plays. But to me, it's the play design that's been crappy. It's not
I
the
can't tell you
plays
how many
themselves.
times his route was just straight, run down the field, take all the defenders with you, and then leave the field for Devontae Smith. So this week,
You seem to be pretty upset about that too, by the way.
and he wasn't happy, and he dogged a couple of them. Like they showed one where he totally dogged it. So
Well, especially if he's on a clear route where he double covered and he knows he's not getting the ball. You know what I mean?
he wasn't
Like,
running hard.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I
not
think this
surprised.
week you're going to see a big difference, and I'll get to that later. But so offensively, I think Hurts is going to see a lot of zones. I just think all these teams are just going to throw zones at Hurts, and until he can prove that he could beat them. Now, in doing that, the Eagles start running the ball, and with that offensive line, I could probably run for 80 yards behind that offensive line.
Yeah, he had some nice cuts and all, but there was some gaping holes
Yeah.
that
Huge
he
holes.
had to run through.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Swift didn't play well, but I'm just saying, come on. I mean, there were holes, like you said, you could drive a car through.
but that's what's going to happen when the teams want to play, and it's just the Eagles have to commit to,
Right.
stay
Now,
on
of
board.
course, you're playing the Minnesota Vikings, so, but again, the Eagles' offensive line is probably the best in football. So, and then defensively, the secondary is a problem, right? And it's because of the injuries, but,
yeah, I mean, they're keep in mind the backup to Maddox got hurt in preseason.
oh, yeah. I mean,
so they were on their Bradbury
Yeah.
wasn't playing, so they were on their 5th and 6th backup.
Mhm.
That's in some of those downs.
Yeah.
I mean that's not doable.
Yeah. No,
But Bradbury's going to be back this week.
right. Bradbury and Blankenship should be back,
And
but the
Blankenship
Maddox
should be
won't.
back.
So,
Maddox won't know.
yeah. So, they still don't look like you would want them to look for me. But they won. They won both games. Just not crazily impressively.
Yeah, I need to see it again this week because for me, going from your first game where they looked like they did to then a Thursday game, I really didn't expect much of a difference because you don't have your 3 days to come up with like review tape. What differences, how has teams adjusted? What fronts are we seeing? You don't have enough time. When you play these Thursday games, it's basically the game plan from Sunday just rolled into a different team, and so now they have what? They had 11 coming off 11 days. I guess it is Thursday
13?
to Monday.
No, yeah, I guess it's 11. Yeah.
Right? Thursday or 10
Yeah.
or so. So now it's if they come out the same, then I'm going to say, you know what? Something's still broken here. So let me see how they look against Tampa before I jump to conclusion. But I think one thing they need to understand is Hurts is a quarterback that is most effective playing off the ability to run. So I'm not saying they're a team that needs to run the ball and play action. It's not that. They're just not he's not a typical passing quarterback that's going to drop back and out throw you like Mahomes or Herbert, those guys. He's going to be very, very good to elite when you run an offense that has the ability to run. He has the ability to run where you don't know what's coming at you. And when he drops back and throws, he's not going to be effective. I mean, he's not right now, at least.
Do you think there's 200-300 million reasons why they're not making him run that much?
But you have to, because like Tommy said, I
understand, but
I don't necessarily mean he's the only one that has to run. The team has to be run as well, like they did, and then it did open up the passing game to Devontae down the field and different things like that. It's just that mentality of they're not a drop back and pass the ball down the field like the Chiefs are. But not that team.
My thing is like when people say, well, you don't want him running this much because he's going to get hurt and all. Yeah, he's got to.
I agree. The biggest knock on Donovan McNabb was that when he stopped running, he wasn't he tried.
Right.
He doesn't want that stereotype, so he stays in the pocket.
And
he wasn't as effective.
People shouldn't want this guy not to run because you wouldn't like the results.
One of my things last year, and I think I mentioned on the pod, was the fact that last year they were using him as if they didn't care if he got hurt. They were wanting to win football games with him.
It is what it is.
I 100%.
It just is what it is.
It may be, I don't know. I mean, it's probably because of the fact, that they're trying to protect them. But at the same time, like maybe they thought like with the talent around him that they can try not having him run as much just to see if the talent around him would make him not a pocket passer, but allow him not to make plays with his legs as often as he was last year. But you're taking away a huge dynamic of the offense.
I don't even blame them as much. I mean, if you watch, he ran into trouble he took a couple of those sacks. He got into himself. He had time and he went the wrong way into the pocket. He's not seeing the field effectively right now, and he's not. I put a lot of their struggles on him, but I don't know I don't know if it's because of the new offense coordinator or the change in plays because they're not running the ball. But
there was a clear play.
Seeing the field.
If you guys remember, he dumped one off to, I think it was Swift in the flat, really early in the progression. And they showed the field, and Devontae Smith was just like, there was nobody within like 40 yards of Devontae Smith. Like, it's a touchdown. And Brown was even open. They were both open, but Devontae Smith was like ridiculously wide open in the middle of the field. And
the first week he had Goddard on a couple plays where he threw in the double coverage. So yeah, I put a lot of the blame on Hurts. But when they start running the ball, even his passing got better. That he threw the pass to Devontae. He made a couple nice reads. I think he had a slant to Brown on a third down. That was effective. So to me, that's the key is they need to run the offense that way. Chalky, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when you looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year and saw like that back half, like, man, the league really did them a disservice by stacking that back half of the schedule. But actually, it's probably doing them a big favor right now because obviously the offense isn't working the way they want it to. And luckily, they're playing good defensive teams. They got another good defensive team coming in, going this week. Bucs are a top 10 defense. Mars was the coordinator that gave him trouble in the playoffs a couple years ago. Yet Brady's not on the other side. But the benefit is that the offenses that they've played so far aren't that great, so they can work through the struggles a little bit on their side of the offense. And the defense is getting the turnovers. But when you look at last week when they made the shift to going run heavy, like you said, their drives were touchdown, field goal, touchdown, short field because turnover, touchdown, punt that should have been a touchdown because of a bogus holding call. So the offense in that period, once it started running, as far as putting points on the board, looked like the offense last year. And like you said, opened up a couple of the deep shots. And they, you could say that's not how you win in the NFL today, which I would agree. But bottom line, the Eagles said, okay, we're going to do this differently. And they did it, and we'll do it until we get stopped. And the Vikings could not stop them. So, there's things that have to get cleaned up, but I'll give credit to the coordinator for switching the game plan and keep doing it until, the game ended, because they weren't really stopping it.
Yeah, how about you, Meeker? I know you made a couple points, but anything else overall?
No, I mean, I don't know if they're just testing that, what you're talking about, Chalky. Like, if we can win games with our offensive line dominating the defensive line and just run and just control the game, against bad teams, like you said, they'll be able to do that. But, and there's not a lot of great teams in the NFC, that they can't do that against. It's just play the Niners, you play Dallas, you play teams that have really good defenses. You're going to have to, have that dynamic offense that they had last year and let him loose. I don't know if it's just him getting used to the new coordinator, if the coordinator's got a different philosophy. But in the end, they're a better team when he's playing his game, and I just haven't seen it yet this year. And he hasn't really clicked with Brown yet. I mean, Smith has obviously played pretty good so far, and he's got Goddard into the game this week. But, A.J. Brown, what did he have the most yards and most catches in Eagles history last year? And yet, the first two games so far, he's kind of been not non-existent, but he has been more of a decoy than anything else.
They did have the touchdown to him that Penny took, probably an unnecessary hold.
That was dumb penalty.
Yeah, but that was after he had that little sideline burst with Hurts too, and they seemed like they were feeding him the ball after that. All right, well, let's move into this week then. Against Tampa. I know we were talking off air with the weather. So was this a game that the weather's affected?
No,
it's already passed. Okay, cool. So Jason, what do you think? Eagles, Tampa. I think it's where are we at with
4.5?
As a 4.5 now. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
5 on DraftKings.
It's up to 5 now. Okay.
Move back up. It did go to 4.5 earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think this is an easy game at all. I think Tampa Bay. Now they beat the Bears, who I think are the worst team in football. Or maybe I don't know them or Arizona, but I'm not a Mayfield fan at all. But the guy's not playing bad right now. He looks like he's playing pretty well. Chalky said Tampa Bay's got a really good defense. I think it's a tough game. I really do. I think the line's a little shady. Like, the line's been dropping for some reason, and it dropped all the way to 4.5.
6.5 was a lot. It opened as a 6.5 road dog. That's a lot of points. I thought it was high as soon as it came out.
Yeah. I think it's a tough game. I think they'll win. I'm going to say 27-23. I think they'll win. I think A.J. Brown, I mean, you're going to come to prop bets to me at the end. I'm all over A.J. Brown prop bets in this game. I think 100 yards. I think 2 touchdowns. I'm going to be very heavy on A.J. Brown prop bets in this game. He's at least scoring 1 touchdown in this game.
Chalky, where are you at with this game this week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's an easy game. For agreeing with Jason there. And again, I think it's going to come down to Mayfield's played well, but Mayfield can certainly turn the ball over. So defense is going to have to keep up the pressure and force a couple turnovers, which will give the offense a little bit of leeway if they have their struggles. You got 2 of the secondary back, but Maddox being out is going to hurt, and you got 2 really good receivers still in Evans and Godwin, although they're more outside. Now they're saying Bradbury might do some slot play, but it wasn't a coincidence that Jefferson really took off on that game once Maddox got hurt, because they got him in the slot on those mismatches, and he just was catching everything.
There was one play where, was it Goodrich, that the defense was telling him to go with Jefferson in motion, and he stood there and just and held his arms like, They were telling him to go, and he wasn't moving.
He struggled mightily, and I don't know. That might be a position that Howie looks to make a trade for before the deadline. To get a slot, a typical slot corner. I was gonna go 27-23, so I'll go 27-24 Eagles, just so it's not exactly.
I was going to go 27-24.
But I think
great,
it's a.
Great
I think it's
capping minds thinking alike this week.
I think it's a 3 or 4 point game, so I think at 4.5 or higher, Tampa covers.
Yeah, and I'll just throw my score out. I mean, I think the Eagles do figure it out a little bit this week. I'm not a Mayfield fan at all. I think he struggles at times. I think, like Chalky said, he's going to turn it over. I'm 30-20. Eagles pick it up this week and do get the cover. I'm in between. Is it a late score by Tampa that makes it 20, or is it a late score by the Eagles that puts it 30? But I think it's a relatively comfortable win. 30-20 Eagles. Meeker?
Well, you got two teams coming into this game that are both 2-0, one playing below expectations and one playing above expectations. But, if you look at the two opponents, like Jason had alluded to, the Bears and the Vikings gave the ball away, 3-4 times in the game that they lost against Tampa, and the Bears are a complete mess. So they haven't really beaten anybody of consequence. But they're not going to be able to run the ball like they did against Minnesota. This is a pretty good defensive line, so they'll have to come out with a different kind of game plan. I agree with Jason. I think that, they're going to get A.J. Brown in the game and test these cornerbacks. Defensively, I'm assuming that Blankenship is going to play now. He's still on concussion protocol, but I think he's
not.
No, Bradbury's concussion. Blankenship.
I'm sorry. I meant Blankenship.
Yeah.
He's still okay. So he's good though.
They're both playing. It sounds like
Yeah, Bradbury would have played last week if the game wasn't Thursday.
Yeah.
So, Baker Mayfield, I don't know. I mean, I'm not really scared of Baker Mayfield, but he has played okay in his first two games. But like Chalky said, he's got propensity to turn the ball over. But there's a lot of cues next to some people on the Eagles roster this week, and a lot of cues on Tampa Bay's side. So there's a lot of injuries, for both teams coming into the game. And but I think the Eagles will win. I actually think they're going to win a little easier than you guys think. I'm going to go 30-17, so I have them winning by 13.
Great minds think alike. Great handicapping minds. You say that they gave the ball away against Tampa Bay, the Vikings. They also gave the ball away against the Eagles, too.
Exactly. Yeah, they did.
So
I know, but everybody's talking about
Part of the game.
Dallas is the greatest team. They have eight turnovers on defense so far this year. I mean, that's why teams are 2-0, because they're getting turnovers. I mean, you can't use turnovers as teams win football games, and then use it as a negative.
Well, it depends on the turnovers. When Justin Jefferson's throwing the ball on his own out of the end zone, that's not really a turnover the Eagles caused.
Yeah, I think
I got to look at
I
the
got a
turnovers.
text. I think I got a text there in that game from somebody.
Nobody
that said,
give me the 8 turnovers that Dallas has. Give me the nobody. You don't know.
Yeah, you have to look at how the turnovers came about. You're stripping a quarterback, strip sacking, stuff
Eagles
like
had
that.
the strip sack that Cox picked
Yeah,
up. They had
that's
the
a
punt
legit
return
turnover.
where the guy came behind and swatted the ball for
A punt returner fumbling.
Oh no, we don't count that either. He's saying
Nah,
the guy came behind and swatted.
like I said, someone sent me a text either after the
that's a
game.
little lucky to me.
Just
I
send
don't
me
know.
that
Whenever a
text.
punt returner fumbles a ball, come on.
So,
Text said, this is the luckiest team in the NFL.
In the first quarter of that game, they were for sure.
They've been lucky with health, and they've been lucky with the turnovers this year.
The only turnover was the Cousins fumble.
Their health is
that's
not that lucky right now.
That's a legit turnover.
Also, the Madison fumble.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
Out, so that's
two of them. 2 of the 4 were legit. Yep.
It's part of the game. You make your own luck sometimes.
Yeah, I hate those cliches, but I agree. I mean, that is, you can't use a turnover as a negative. That's all I'm saying. But
Tampa could have lost that game to Minnesota. I mean, they won on a 60 whatever, like almost a 60-yard field goal at the end of the game.
Tampa, I mean, Chicago as the biggest dumpster fire in the NFL, and I took them last week, but So I watched that game.
You
right,
also took them to win the division, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that the defensive coordinator was going to get arrested for whatever on his.
And you didn't know the quarterback couldn't play quarterback either.
But no, the defense is like 30 out of 32, so they're not good. But the quarterback, the turnover. I mean, they had the ball down 3 with a chance to win the game, and Fields just threw it up there for a pick 6.
There was a play I watched.
Yeah, it was.
I was watching someone with Jason said, and he had 2 guys like literally wide open
in his end zone,
and he just held the
it
ball
was
until
no.
he got sacked.
He just holds the ball.
I tortured myself by watching that game. It was not pretty. Although he before the last drive, he looked really good and drove him right down for a touchdown. And then the next thing he's at his own goal line. He's just throwing the ball up there, and it's a pick 6, like for 5 yards. Like,
and then now he's blaming like the coaches.
Yes,
and stuff.
now he's blaming the coach, and so they're a complete disaster. I should have went with Green Bay. Like there was between Green Bay and then Chicago. I should have went with Green Bay, but
that's
he
a
tried
little
to
bit of
recant that. He tried to recant that
Cardinals
quote,
moment.
by the way.
That's going to be cocky at the end of the year. Chicago.
I think it just goes to show you. I don't think much of any team in that division, so I took a longer shot.
He tried to recant that comment. He tried to bring the media back into the locker room and say, "Let me try to reiterate."
There was no way the media spun that the wrong way. He literally said coach it. And they're like, nah, why do you mean that was like that's all you said? Like you
didn't
didn't
be a backup quarterback very soon.
Yeah. I think he's a guy out of the league. He doesn't have the mental ability to be a backup. I just see him being like a
Who is that prospect that became a wide receiver? That quarterback, Pryor, right?
Pryor.
No, Pryor. Terrell Pryor.
Didn't the other one too, or was he?
Who's that?
Braxton Miller. Didn't he become that? Wasn't he?
I mean, he was because Eagles had him in the practice squad at one point.
Yeah, he was a quarterback.
Ohio State quarterbacks, man.
Terrell Pryor. That's the one I guess.
Stroud doesn't look too bad in his first couple games, but Ohio State quarterbacks,
he'll be terrible.
They're just.
We'll see.
They just don't.
That's going to change with their current quarterback once he makes it to the league.
Who's that?
I forget his name, but he's a prep kid. So
no.
McCord. Yeah, I think.
All right, so that segues into the before we get into picks about the league. So so I actually had a question that maybe we can, it could spur into some conversation. Is there a particular player, Meeker? You like these questions. A particular player that has surprised you this year, like a guy you weren't expecting that looks like a quarterback. We mentioned Mayfield, that you weren't expecting looks good, and vice versa. A guy that isn't playing very well that you weren't expecting to play well. Anybody that stands out.
Specific player.
Or if anybody.
I have a player.
This is surprising. I don't think this is surprising, but I think the media thinks he's way better than he is, and that's Deshaun Watson. I don't really think he's.
Yeah, I don't like him either.
Yeah, I think he's.
And I think he's more of what he was last year than what he was in his early years with Houston.
I never liked Watson.
Yep.
I don't know if. I mean, look, it's been enough now. How many games has he played without? It's been like 4 games last year and 2 games this year. Everyone wants to give it the excuse that he's got rust, and I don't see it, man. I mean, I watched that game against Pittsburgh, and I've seen him make some terrible throws and terrible reads in that game, and he's not really running the ball like he usually is. So I don't know what's going on in his head, but they're a talented team. They're losing because they lost because more of him than the team.
Yeah.
The team's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Jason, you said you had a player?
Yeah, I have one good and one bad. That Puka for the Rams. I mean, that guy's unbelievable.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what's going to happen when Cup comes back, but I don't know. Maybe throw money on him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And then on the bad side, Pickett for the Steelers. He looks like he can't play.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the quarterback, Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I was thinking that Pickett.
No,
yeah,
at least with him, he's only played a half a season last year and a couple games this year. I mean,
but he's supposed to make a step up, and he looks.
Yeah, Mika, you made a comment about Ritter, I think, in our thread.
He stinks too.
He is god awful. I don't know how Atlanta won that game, but like I said, I was saying on a previous podcast, if you can make a bet, and Jason might be right, he might not finish the season as the quarterback, but you can make a bet that a team had more rushing yards than passing yards. That's the team to bet, Atlanta, because they win by running the ball, and they have Bijan. I watched him play a little bit last Sunday. He's pretty amazing.
Problem with him is they have other backs like that.
Yeah,
Algiers.
They ran that Algiers a lot in that game in like third and
Red
one.
zone.
Like
He's
Yes.
a red zone running back. Like
yeah,
he gets the ball
I
red
was
zone.
shocked. Now Bijan catches passes and everything, but yeah, I was a couple of those plays where it was like third and short, and he was being used. I was a little bit. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but I was surprised. How about you, Chalky? Anything stood out?
I mean, player-wise, like, I'm looking here, especially at the quarterbacks, it's mostly, I would say, disappointments as opposed to, like, overperforming. I mean, you look even like Tua's at top league in yards passing, but you kind of expect that if he's healthy, but he's only got, he's got 4 touchdowns, couple turnovers. A lot of guys at the top who aren't winning games, Cousins, Stroud, Mac Jones. So
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Jones has been a little more impressive than I thought he was going to be. He's the highest pressured quarterback so far for through 2 games.
is that right?
He's had some bad moments, but he hasn't been like awful for being pressured that much. So he's a guy I wouldn't be surprised to keep your eye on the rest of the
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Lamar looks decent through 2 games, but we'll see how that ends up. I mean, he started well last couple of years and then, gets hurt or whatever. As far, I thought McCaffrey had a chance to lead the league in touchdowns, and he's obviously started pretty well.
You know who's not going to lead the league in touchdowns? Chubb.
Yeah, that's a shame.
That was
Yeah,
a guy.
I'm
I think we
looking,
all were high on him. Obviously.
He's probably done after that.
That is terrible.
It's gonna be real tough. And
step
I watched him on Monday night. By the way, those 2 Monday night games for a long
Yes.
time were just real awful.
Is that every week or?
Your
what?
time.
Wow.
Was great.
Well, I was going to give Olave some credit as a guy that I thought was playing well since I suffered through 2 Saints games for the most part. But, it was luckily I was able to get the split screen up because combined they didn't equal 1 good game, but it wasn't too bad that I was forced to watch one or the other.
You don't like defense?
Is this the last week for this, or is that
pretty sure? I don't think.
I think this coming week is the last week, yeah, because the Eagles got the early game this week, and then
nice.
Speaking of what you're talking about, someone brought up a good point though with the NFL and the contracts with TV and everything like that, and then they're like, if you're adding another Monday night game, now you have to fill primetime spots between Thursday, Sunday night, Monday night. Now there's 2 of them. 4:00 games always got to be a good game to keep people interested. There's not enough good teams to be able to put 7 good primetime games on. And that's why you get some of these stinkers in these.
Well,
games.
Thursday, they used to put a lot of the stinky teams on Thursdays, but because they knew they're still going to get the ratings.
Yeah.
It's a Thursday
Yeah.
game.
It's the NFL.
Well, I think they can flex Monday night games this year, right?
I think they can.
Yeah. And I guess biggest disappointment I would say, as I see he's playing Monday night this week, Joe Burrow, who is clearly not over his injury from the preseason.
I think he's
Definitely not.
He comes some news where he might not even play this week.
Yeah,
too.
he's questionable.
He's questionable, yeah.
He's like 50-50 to play.
Yeah, so-
on the heels of the Cincinnati thing, like, here's a question for you. Like, what 0-2 team, if they lose this week, is kind of like a death sentence for them the rest of the year?
I don't think anybody could go
yeah.
0-3. You go 0-3, you're in big trouble.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I would have to look at scheduling, but I would think any team that's 0-3
Any team that drops to 0-3 is in humongous trouble.
We got Minnesota and the Chargers playing each other.
I mean, Minnesota could win and still be in trouble.
Can be 0-3.
Chargers, Bengals, they're the 2 teams.
Yeah.
They can't lose. Neither of them.
Denver. Houston's done already, so you can't really.
Yeah, Houston.
New England's the only other team that's okay.
I don't have high hopes for them, but yeah, They can't.
I give New England a little more leeway in that division now. Well, you don't know how the Jets are going to end up. They were a distant 4th for me in the preseason, but they can maybe have 2 wins there.
All right, let's move. We're running long, so let's move to our picks. So Jason, do you want to do the week, or do you want to do? I think we were talking about a new statistic we're going to start.
There's a new statistic that has been requested by a Dallas Cowboys backer who has joined the program in the past with the initials WV. He has asked us to add historical stats. So we'll now be including our historical pick stats. But I'm going to start, as we always do, with the league stats.
The league stats, yep.
Yeah. So last week was a crazy week for overs. Like overs went 12-3 last week, which is outrageous, especially for early in the season. Usually unders kind of dominate, but 12-3 for overs is pretty sick last week. So now overs is actually 16 with unders 15 for the year. And then the public, they went 7-8 over under. So they're still doing well for the year. They're 19-12 in their over unders. And the spreads, they were 7-7. They had the big week in week 1, so they're still 17-12 for the year. So I'm sure that'll turn around soon. Let's get to our records for last week. And we will start with the only guy who had a positive week. We'll start with Tommy. So Tommy went 2-1 on the week. He hit his best bet, which was Tampa Bay. And he also won the Colts game. But then he lost with the Broncos. So he went 2-1.
After holding a 21-0 or 21-3 lead, then it just went downhill from there.
Chalky went 1-2. Chalky, did you hit your best bet? You hit your best bet, right?
I did, yes. I first week I picked an unders of one of the 4 that didn't go under, and then Versal this week. So
right. So you hit your best bet, which was good, and that was the under in the Chiefs Jacksonville game. You crushed that. That was an easy under. But then you lost your other 2 games. You lost with your Bears. So I guess you're a secret closet Bears fan. Seems like you like the Bears.
Not anymore.
Okay. And then the Raiders, who got trounced by the Bills. So, and then we will go to Meeker. And Meeker had his usual 1-2 week. Lost his best bet, which again is not unusual for Meeker. He lost the under in the San Francisco and Rams game, and but he did win the Miami with his number 2 pick. But then he lost with the Chargers, which was
I will never bet on it that guy coaches again.
He's going to get fired, for sure. And then for me, I went 1-2 as well. I lost my best bet, which was the Chargers. And I also lost my number 2 bet, which is Packers Falcons under, but I did win on the Bucs, so I went 1-2. And now we'll go to our best bet records. We have to pick it up with best bets. We're not great this year. I'm 1-1. I'm -$7 profit, 50% win, -4% ROI. Tommy's the same, 1-1, -$15 profit, 50%, -8% ROI. Chalky, 1-1, -$9, 50%, -5% ROI. And then Meeker, 0-2. So you can continuing your best bet roll. -$200, 0% win percentage, -100% ROI. Total pod is 3-5 best bets, -$232, 37.5% win percentage, -29% ROI. We got to pick it up with best bets. Overall, I am 4-2, profit of $158, 26% ROI, 67% win percentage. Tommy's 3-3, $61 profit, 10% ROI, 50% win percentage. Chalky is also 3-3, but he is a -$18 profit, -3% ROI, 50% win. Meeker, 2-4, -$212, -35% ROI, 33% win percentage. On the year, the pod is now 12-12, pretty much even, -$12 profit, -0.5% ROI, 50% win percentage. And then for our buddy who requested the overall stats.
There's no need for that.
Why not? I kind of agree with him.
Taking up too much time in this podcast.
No, I don't think so.
Let's do a quick vote. Who's in favor of hearing the all-time stats?
Me.
Hey, oh,
And then the guy that requested it, so it's
yes,
3-2.
3-2. Okay.
Yeah.
The guy's
So-
not on the podcast. This is
So
not
best bets. You're slowing down the segment. Best bets. I'm 13-6. Tommy's 11-6. Chalky's 10-9. Meeker 6-13. What's your best?
And next week there will be a special guest from the Wall Street Journal Money Edition who will go over how Meeker's best going against Meeker's best bets is better than playing the stock.
6-13. That's like almost 70%.
There'll be pie charts. There'll be like all kind of Japanese candlesticks all over the place.
There's
So
hedge funds trying to invest in retirement. And
Yeah. Overall, I'm 37-21, $1,251 profit, 21% ROI, 64% win percentage. Tommy's 31-21, $926 profit, 17% ROI, 60% win percentage. Chalky 27-32, minus 728 profit, minus 12% ROI, 46% win. Meeker 25-32, minus $932 profit. Loss, not profit. Minus 16% ROI, 44% handicapping win percentage. Christopher Meeker.
It's not that far off the chalky. 1-3-0 a week.
I mean, that's like trying to strive to be the same record as the Bears. I mean, come on. All right. Well, Meeker, we'll give you a chance to redeem yourself and let you go first. It also gives us the other three to feverishly scratch out any picks that match Meeker's.
Yeah.
So we will let you go first with why don't you do your 3-2-1 and your best
I wonder if
last
any
pick.
bookies listen and they're gonna feverishly try to call Meeker to try to become his
lines
bookie.
are changing. The Vegas lines are changing.
I know. What's funny is like I bet for real and I don't really lose. It's just this podcast. The truth. Ed's facing. So I told him about that.
Yes, me.
No,
Yes,
It's-
me.
It's right here.
Yeah, show me your bets.
I showed them to you. I actually texted.
Yeah, the
Because
ones you lose, you don't show.
I don't really lose that many. I just lose the ones that are on this
You
podcast.
just lose on the podcast.
Because I got to bet straight games and I don't usually do that.
I think you need to request the account statement, which laying out everything for the show.
I have look. I'm an open book. I'll show.
You're going to be audited. We're going to audit you.
So my best bet this week is the aforementioned Philadelphia Eagles, -5, and it's minus 110 is the.
Chalky, could you please audit this? Is it minus 110?
It's 5-110.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't think it's going to be as close a game as you guys think.
Music in my ears.
I don't know. The whole week of these games are like a lot of terrible games and big lines, and I don't know. I think the Eagles come out smoking and win this game by almost 2 touchdowns. So I'm gonna take the Eagles -5. My next bet is under in the Kansas City Chicago game, 47.5. That's a -108. Not so much about whether Kansas City, isn't going to score. I think they're going to score points. I just think the Bears are just a complete mess, and I don't think they're going to score at all. I don't know.
All right, so just correcting the line, under 48 is -112.
It was just only 3 hours ago, so I guess that changed. 47.5.
That's all right. So you get a half a point and you lose for,
That's
all
a
right.
weird movement.
That is weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 98% of the public is on the under that game so far.
Oh, so it's a chalk.
We moved that down. What was it when it started? It was a little higher than that?
It started at 49.5.
So that line's moved down pretty much. Okay.
Yeah.
My last bet is Washington at home +6.5 against the Bills, -108. I think Washington, obviously they're a 2-0 team, getting 6.5 at home. It's a lot of points to get at home. I know Buffalo played pretty good last week, but I think Washington keep it close. And I think the Bills will probably win the game, but maybe only 3 or 4. So I'm going to take Washington +6.5.
Okay. And I will go next, so I don't have to go after. My best bet is Green Bay -1.5, -110 against Meeker's Saints. Obviously, Green Bay coming off a loss to Atlanta. Saints are 2-0.
Yep.
2-0. Why is Green Bay giving points? Everybody, I'm sure, is going to say they should get points. That's why. Minnesota -1, -105. Chargers ain't going to go 0-3. Minnesota stinks. Why are they giving points? Minnesota -1. And then Cleveland -3.5. I just think, and that's -102. Unless I check, which is another one. I just think that line should be higher. I mean, Tennessee stinks, if you ask me. So
I think, that was an odd line to me too. I don't know if Cleveland has. I mean, obviously they have Chubb injury, but I don't know if there's other injuries that cause it.
Yeah, I know.
I think the fact that Watson's terrible probably plays into some of it.
Yeah, but I think Tennessee's terrible. So and then Tennessee's coming off the win against Chargers.
OT win, yeah.
So I don't know, but I just thought that was a bad line, more so than trying to figure out public versus, what they're thinking. So Cleveland -3.5, -102. So chalky.
Well, I know. I think one of my picks is going to match Jason, so I'm not going to make that one my best bet to not jinx him.
Your best bets aren't bad though. Your best bets are not terrible.
Yeah. So my best bet is going to be under 44 in the Colts-Ravens game. That's possibly affected by the weather. I think Richardson was playing, but he went out with the concussion last week, and Minshew Magic held on to the lead. But I don't, could be a lower scoring game unless there's
minus
turnovers.
What is that? -1.
My second pick is going to be under 43.5 in the Bills-Commanders game. Also, a weather play there, and two quarterbacks that are prone to turn the ball over. Potentially, that's -112 currently. And my third pick, I'll spare Tommy because I also kind of like Green Bay, but I'm going to go over in the Eagles-Bucs game. So that is currently set at, I just lost it.
46, I think I saw.
46, it should be.
Yeah, it's not showing up on the board here for some reason, but yes, so we'll go at 46. It's been early money again. Yes, okay, so it's back up 46 -110. So we'll go over 46. The early money again, it's still early, but it's all on the unders in that game. And if I'm thinking it's going to be around 50 points, that means it's going to go over. So we'll go over in that game.
Okay, and then we'll finish with Jason.
So my best bet is going to be the Broncos +6.5. And that's it should be -108 unless it changed. I think that's a shady line. It seems like Vegas is trying to keep that line under 7 for some reason. And I believe the money is on Denver, even though the tickets are on Miami as we speak. So I think Broncos keep that game close. I wouldn't be shocked if they win because, like Meeker mentioned, you don't want to go 0-3. So, their backs up or against the wall. Miami's 2-0. Not a lot of pressure on them in that game. So, Broncos my top pick.
Should be a lot.
What's that?
That line should be higher.
Should be higher, right?
Yeah,
I think that's a shady line. And then my second pick's the same as Chalky's second pick. I like the under in the Bills-Commanders game, under 43.5, -112. I like the under even before the weather. Now I like it even more. And then my last pick is I'm going with the Bucs +4.5. Obviously, it's wonderful that it's opposite Meeker's top pick. So I'm playing percentages there, but that was already my third pick anyway.
That's 5. That's 5 right now.
It's at 5, and what is the
110?
110 and 5. Okay.
Yep.
It was 4.5 and -112, so it's even better. Okay, so 5 +5.
Games, those games that you got Chalky and Jason, the weather games, did those lines drop already? I didn't like it where they opened.
No, it was already 43.5. Now, let me see. I have the open line. It dropped a point. So it was 44.5 to 43.5. It dropped a point.
Yeah,
not terrible.
See even more drop.
Yeah.
As it's closer to kickoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I think some of the forecasts weren't really public until today. Like, hey, these are the games that's probably going to be affected. So people might not. I mean, the sharps obviously are on that right away, but you might not see a lot of money on that just yet.
Yeah, but I don't mean just for. I mean, Vegas usually moves.
No, they'll
rather
adjust
than-
anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So before we wrap this up, a couple things. I know we might have a problem. Jason, you mentioned there was a bunch of Wongable games, to tease. For those that don't know, Wong is a player, a Vegas handicapper, who said the only way you should tease is by crossing the 7, crossing the 3, crossing the 10, I think it is. So, if you got a game that's 2.5, you tease it up to 8.5, you cross the 3 and the 7. If you got a game that's 8.5, you tease it down, you cross the 7, you cross the 3, etc. So, Jason, do you have those all out of?
Yeah. And now these are as of this afternoon, so they may have.
That's another thing where they do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, if as
But
soon
you
as we
play it.
post this, if you put the bet in,
Yeah.
then you're gonna get it. But the Chargers are plus 1.5, so that would count. The Colts are plus 8.5, or I guess the Ravens are minus 8.5.
So yeah, that would go down.
Right.
Yeah.
The Saints are plus 1.5.
Chalky's shaking his head as if.
Well,
They've
the first two games have changed. So the Chargers are +1 at minus 115.
I got. So wait, what do I got for my best bet? 1.5, 110, or 1?
You said the Vikings, right?
No, Green Bay. Oh, Vikings.
No, you
are
said
playing
Chargers.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So yeah,
I got -1, -105.
for Vikings, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
The Ravens are at -8, 108 now, so that's still a
Well, you can still
walkable game.
keep-
Just
That
different.
still counts. Yep.
Yeah. And the Packers are 105, are at -1.5, so the Saints would be up, so that still counts.
Yeah.
The Patriots are minus 2.5, so for the Jets, you move it up. The Jaguars are minus 8.5, so you move that down.
9, but still counts.
No.
No, 9 doesn't. 8.5.
It puts on the.
You're crossing the set. You're crossing the. Oh yeah, you're right. My
Crossing
math.
the 7.
Yeah,
my
count.
my math is bad.
Yeah. And then the Steelers are 2.5, or were.
They are now too. Yeah.
Plus
Still,
2.5.
yep, 2.5.
So
the
there's a
key is
handful.
look for 1.5, 2, 2.5,
7.5, 8.5.
7.5, 8, 8.5. That's what
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there
And
is-
that Jaguars game. I'm sorry. The 9 game, which was we just said. The Jaguars game that could drop back to 8.5 too, possibly.
Yeah, just keep an eye on the line. And I have a couple of prop bets.
And then so some prop bets from
Yeah.
anybody before we wrap up here.
Yeah, I guess I'll
Go,
go
Jason.
real fast.
Yeah.
So my Brown, like I said, I'm all over Brown. First touchdown, 2 touchdowns, 100 yards. I'm all over AJ Brown. I'm going back to the well with Ferguson. He scored last week. Dak, he's got a ton of targets in the red zone. If you look, he looks to Ferguson all the time. Calvin Ridley, I think is going to have a big game for Jacksonville. I think he's going to score a touchdown. And then we mentioned the guy earlier, Algier. He gets the ball for Atlanta. He runs touchdowns in. So they're my 4 touchdown guys.
Cool. How about you guys, Maker, Chalky, anything?
Yeah, I got a couple props for the Eagles Bucks game. So I think if they're going to get 23, 24 points, the Bucks are going to have to throw a lot, and they might be coming from behind. So I would go with the passing Mayfield over 229.5. So 230 or better on passing yards, and then also Godwin over 54.5, and Mike Evans over 53.5 on props.
Okay.
Evans is 53.5 for yards. That's it.
Yep.
Wow. Interesting.
All right. So that will wrap up episode 73 of Broad Street Hustle. We'll be back next week to talk probably the same Phillies.
Might be a
and
day
football.
later though next week, right?
Oh, yes, correct. So we have some scheduling conflict. So we might not tape it till Friday, which would post us for the weekend. So not much difference, but it'll be available Saturday. So stay tuned for that. Broad Street Hustle, episode 73. Not just your podcast, but a playbook for success. Good night.
Peace.